Good evening, everyone. This is the Puyallup City Council meeting for November 26th. It's now called to order. May we all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome, everyone. I'm the Mayor, Jim Castema. I want to thank you all for being here this evening. Now I'd like to have the clerk call the roll, please.
Councilmember Whitting.
Present.
Councilmember Dorr.
Excused.
Councilmember Adler.
Present.
Councilmember Johnson.
Excused.
Deputy Mayor King.
Present.
Councilmember Gilliam.
Present.
Mayor Castema.
Present. Well, again, welcome here this evening. I usually at this point, I scan the audience looking for potential students from our schools. And I don't mean to discriminate by saying anyone looks older than maybe high school level. But if there is anyone who's in our local schools, community colleges, et cetera, please stand up and we'll recognize you. And just so that everyone knows, we do that because we want to make sure our youth are very welcome to these events because they're our future leaders, and we hope that we can prove to be examples for them to follow one day, and that they want to have a position as we are in right now. But with that, seeing no one of that ilk necessarily, let's move on to item number 1, approval of the agenda. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda as written?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, let's move on to number 2, consideration of minutes. 2A, approval of the October 29th, 2024 minutes. Do we have a motion to approve those?
Move approval.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, excellent. Okay, now we get to move on to the presentations and proclamations. And I think that's why a lot of people are here this evening. Thank you for being here. We're going to make a proclamation on small businesses in Puyallup. And let me go ahead and start with that. Whereas we who live in Puyallup greatly value our local small businesses and the contributions they make to our economy and community. And whereas small businesses employ close to 1/2 of all private sector employees across the country. And whereas one way we can support our local small businesses is to look to them first for whatever it is we need or want, whether for ourselves or for others. And whereas turning to our small, independently owned businesses for necessary household goods, personal items, and meaningful for fun gifts will strengthen our community's social and economic bonds in ways both seen and unseen. And whereas small businesses are essential here in Puyallup because they create jobs, boost our local economy, and help foster a sense of community. Now, therefore, I, Jim Castema, Mayor of the City of Puyallup, Washington, do hereby proclaim the Saturday following Thanksgiving, November 30th, 2024, as Small Business Saturday in the City of Puyallup, and I urge everyone to support small businesses and merchants on Small Business Saturday and throughout the year. In witness whereof, I hereunto set my hand and cause the seal of the City of Puyallup to be affixed this 26th day of November 2024. And the sponsor of this bill, the author of the bill, asked that I have the following people come forward and actually accept their own copies of these proclamations. And that would be Carrie Anisak, Executive Director of the Puyallup Main Street Association, Robert Kalin with Generous Influencers, Kim Fields with All Things Fun Sports, Allison Schaefer, the President CEO of the Puyallup Sumner Chamber of Commerce, and I believe, unless we have Brian Reynolds, is he here? Okay. Kathy, is it Fenimore? Excuse me. Kathy? Okay. Well, let's have those people come forward, okay?
Kerry Anasak, District 2 and Director for the Puyallup Main Street Association. Hopefully, all of you have had an opportunity to go downtown. If not, everybody out in TV land, come downtown Puyallup and see the roughly 85 snowflakes that are mounted on private buildings downtown. This is a cooperative effort with the Main Street Association and the private businesses, because this isn't a city project, this is a Main Street project, and the businesses loan the use of their power and their facilities and buildings to mount these snowflakes. We have this is about $35,000 worth of snowflakes on these buildings, and every year we mount those, and we spend about $20,000 a year lighting up the downtown area and painting the windows for kind of a window painting decorating contest. And this year we have it up and running prior to Shop Small Saturday. So when you come downtown, hang around in the evening, because as you know, we have 26 bars and restaurants. When you're tired of walking around shopping, that will certainly alleviate some of the stress. Speaking of downtown, do I have 3 minutes on this, or do I have as much time as I want now, don't I?
Actually, you're not in public comment, so you
All right. Take me off the public comment. I'm going to do this now.
We try to get out of here by 9:30.
I want to tell you about the impact of small business downtown. First of all, let me take an opportunity to take a shot at some of the big businesses. Big box stores don't come to small towns. If they arrive in larger significant sized towns, they're here to suck from our economy. It's the small businesses that produce a result. They are your friends and your neighbors, your relatives, your kids' friends, the kids that your kids go to school with, that they go to the skate park with, they play Little League with, they take piano lessons with. Those are the people that are operating the small businesses downtown, and we encourage you to shop downtown all the time, but in particularly Shop Small Saturday. In case you were wondering, in the Central Business District core, there are 127 businesses. I wrote this down on a notepad, and then I took the wrong notepad home with me to bring down here. But I believe it's 127 businesses. There are 1,131 people employed just in the Central Business District core, believe it or not. And let me break that down for you a little bit. There are 27 bars and restaurants that employ roughly 400 people. We have 300 and some people just in the hair care business alone. I want to say there's 128 people in the service-related industries, which would be banking, attorneys, insurance, and so on and so forth. These are, again, your friends and neighbors that are here to make a living and provide a service to the community. So please come down and support them. That's the backbone of our community. So thank you. Appreciate the recognition for small business, but that is a driver for America.
Thank you. Kerry, appreciate your comments. Whoever would like to come forward? Alice?
Thank you, Mayor Kestma and Council. On behalf of the Puyallup Sumner Chamber of Commerce, we would like to extend our heartfelt thanks to the Puyallup City Council for your recognition and support of our local businesses through the recent Small Business Proclamation. This proclamation not only highlights the vital role that businesses play in our economy, but also underscores City Council's commitment to fostering a vibrant and resilient community. We are grateful for your ongoing partnership alongside the association, Kim, Generous Influencers, and we look forward to working together to ensure our small business community grows and succeeds. And I just want to say, as a former business owner, small business owner, I had a storefront for 8 years, and this time of year is essential for businesses that turn a profit from being either profitable or not profitable. So the support, and essentially right now, is imperative. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for all your work. Kim?
Thank you, everyone. This is a great honor. We are very excited to be here. But it's not just me that gets to accept. It's the chamber. It's the ATFS team. And it is a community. Because without community, we cease to exist. And it's the partnerships that we build amongst our community with the mall, with the Chamber of Commerce, with Cascades, all the small businesses. And I am happy to say that 8 years ago, we started Thanksgiving with 50 runners. And Mr. Kirkley found out today, if you did not register, we are sold out. And we have grown exponentially each and every year. And it's because of the partnership and the garden we have planted in our community. So I thank you all and wish you all a very happy Thanksgiving. And don't forget, Santa Parade with the Grinches and the Grinch Run on December 8th.
Thank you. Okay, and Robert, there you go.
Yes. Good evening, everyone. Mayor Castema, thank you. Council, I appreciate you guys recognizing small business today. I just prepared a couple of words. I am truly honored to be a small business in our community with generous influencers, with elements downstairs, and I think it's a glimmer of the amazing and incredible businesses that we actually have in our city. We have so many amazing people doing amazing things, and this recognition and celebration is for every business owner in our city. Every team member, every customer who has generously contributed to the vibrant tapestry of Puyallup. Small businesses are more than just storefronts, they're the heartbeats of our neighborhoods. They represent dreams, hard work, determination of so many people right here in our city. Each small business owner you meet is someone who took a chance to turn an idea into reality, often with many sacrifices and challenges along the way. But it's also a journey marked by resilience, innovation, and deeply rooted in a commitment to serve. We also know that small businesses don't thrive in isolation. It takes a supportive environment like you guys have created here. We're grateful for the efforts that the city of Puyallup has already made in pursuit of a climate where small businesses can grow and flourish. As we continue forward, I encourage that the city keep up this vital work, whether it's through streamlined regulations, accessible resources, or simply ongoing dialogue with the small business community. These efforts help turn dreams into opportunities and create space where small businesses can succeed. Because we know that small businesses thrive, when small businesses thrive, it's not just an economic win. It strengthens families and neighborhoods. Our successes, whether large or small, feed back into the community, supporting schools, events, and initiatives. Every thriving small business means jobs, support, and stability for families, as well as a unique contribution to Puyallup's identity. Thank you once again for this recognition and for your commitment to supporting small businesses like mine and many others represented here today. Together, let's keep building a future where every small business has a chance to succeed and where Puyallup continues to be a place where people dream, create, and grow. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, let me just sum up. I think the view of the council, we view the downtown area as being absolutely essential to Puyallup's character, to our future. And you may have seen over the past, maybe 6-7 years or so, a tremendous emphasis on the downtown area. It is, there was a time way back in the late 60s, 70s when it evaporated. The downtown was lost and people moved on to other retail areas, and the downtown area kind of just was forgotten. But this council has been very adamant about our downtown area being so vital to the future. It is the commons. It's where all the neighborhoods come to, and we gather all as one group of residents from Puyallup. It's something that unifies us. And the fact that we have small business retailers here is essential to that. I love the unique characteristics about what we have here in Puyallup, from the Lazy Ballerina to, it goes on to Lick's Ice Cream we just recently had, and a cake shop that I can't even finish a piece of cake when I buy it there. But these types of very unique retail establishments that we have here really build a tremendous vibrant character for Puyallup. And I want to thank every single one of you, and I wish you the absolute best this holiday season. I will be out there putting together gifts for all my family members, and there are a few shops we go to every Christmas to do that in downtown Puyallup. So again, thank you all for what you do for Puyallup. Appreciate that. So with that, we have a second presentation, and that's for Pierce Transit. And we have the representative from Pierce Transit, Darren Stavish, here, and he'll give us actually a long-range plan for the 2045 strategic plan for Pierce Transit.
Thank you. Good evening. If it's okay with you. Yeah, I'm going to use, can I use mine? Is that all right? Because I actually have my own notes here. All right. Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Castema and fellow City Council members. We were invited here this evening to brief you on our all-new Destination 2045 Long-Range Plan, or LRP. I have with me Anna Peterson, who was a senior planner with you all this year earlier, and I was very pleased to serve on your Puyallup 2044 Comp Plan update community advisory group over the past 13 months. So I have this area is very near and dear to my heart. And with that, I want to give you a quick overview of what we're doing as far as our long-range plan. Really, this plan, while it is brand new, a blank canvas, it does certainly rely on other planning work that we've done in the past year, specifically our fixed route recovery and restoration plan, which we completed and was adopted by our board last December, as well as our stream system expansion study, which was completed and adopted in March of last year. This plan will have brand new appendices, including performance-based targets, goals, and objectives. There's new services options that we didn't offer as recently as 8 years ago, specifically bus rapid transit, runner microtransit, and enhanced bus. So again, it's not done in a vacuum. It certainly relies on other planning work that we've done over the last couple of years. You have the handout, so I won't go into detail on the focus areas, but these are described in the handout as well as our calendar timeline and milestones. It will be what we call a fiscally constrained vision, and that is an oxymoron, but what we mean by that is we're going to make sure that we have cost assumptions across the board to describe exactly how much transit we could provide at incremental funding levels, additional funding levels. And I like to call it the 3 Bs, and really what those are is buses, bodies, and buildings. And it's as simple as additional operators, or the bodies, additional buses, of course, are the vehicles, and then buildings, which is additional capital infrastructure that we need. Was I stuck on the slide before? Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. Thanks for catching that. So again, the focus areas are provided on the handout that Anna was kind enough to give out before I got here. Key trends, certainly there's a lot of emerging technologies and things that are happening much faster than ever. I remember as recently as 4 or 5 years ago when we did our long-range plan update in 2020, that imagine using your mobile phone to, I'm pushing the wrong one. I apologize again. I'm advancing mine and not yours. Using your mobile phone to tell when the next bus would be arriving, or using it to pay your fare. Certainly there are autonomous micro-mini buses that are already happening. The city of Jacksonville is rolling out 5 in the coming year. So we think there's an opportunity to at least look and see what other best practices are happening across the nation. Certainly we don't see a role for this type of technology immediately, but at least we want to keep our eye on what's happening nationwide. And that will be called out on the plan as well. Will you show me which button it is, please? I wasn't watching you advance.
To other council
Thank you.
members, is during this presentation, if there is a question that you have, excuse me, Darren, do you mind if someone has a question on one of your slides?
Not at all.
Please.
Please. It'd be my pleasure. Whatever works for council is fine with us.
Well, I can tell you the observation I have, and I don't want to interfere with your presentation at all, and I want to make sure that it's done in a timely manner. But I would be very interested in the business community that is here today, is to know what the appetite for this community for autonomous vehicles is. And by that, there are other communities where they do have autonomous transportation vehicles like this, where there's not a driver. They show up, and the Bay Area, for example, there's companies there that do this, or one predominant company that does this. And so it's kind of custom travel. You have a vehicle that shows up, there's no driver, but it ends up getting you to where you want to go. I've mentioned that to some people in the community, and they're just frightened. They want nothing like that. And so that's why I put it out there to the business community, whether that would be something that we could even beta test in Puyallup. Again, there are other communities that are doing it. It would kind of put Puyallup on the map, but it might be something, again, I'm looking for feedback. But please proceed, Darren.
Thank you. Yes, again, the city of Jacksonville is actually launching 5 next summer. They're taking down their elevated people mover, which was built, I believe, in the 1970s, and replacing with autonomous micro-mini vehicles like this. So it's things, again, that seem so futuristic are really on the horizon, the very short-term horizon. So we want to make sure that we're looking at these best practices as well. Okay, got it to finally work. Outreach, we certainly wanted to make sure as we started this process at the end of May this year, we promised our Board of Commissioners as well as our executive team that anybody and everybody would know about this plan, that we're not doing this in a vacuum. And with that, we've got some numbers that outreach events that we've done, both internal as well as meeting with our planning partners, certainly the City of Puyallup's planners that we met with on August 22nd. And these numbers will actually go up by the end of the year. But again, we want to make sure that we're using all possible methods or methodologies to do outreach, whether it's in person, virtual, and that anybody and everybody from an elected official to our board members, our executive team, Pierce Transit customers, as well as future customers know what we're doing and are actively participating in this process as we go through it. A couple of outreach opportunities that I mentioned earlier. The first one we did in the month of June, and what this was a something called Social Pinpoint, and it's actually a mapping tool, and we got 700 responses. To put that in perspective, when we did our Destination 2040 long-range plan update in the year 2020, we only got about 180. So it was really exciting to see that. Really no surprises, certainly for the city of Puyallup. We heard a lot about direct connections to your sounder station, more service on the 402 corridor, the Meridian corridor, of course, and then direct connections to new opportunities, specifically through light rail as the ST3 project, the Tacoma Dome Link Extension project, comes down. And then to cities to the north, east, as well as to the south. Certainly Ording, Bonnie Lake, and Auburn came up quite a bit. So we are looking at that as we produce this plan, and I think you'll be pleasantly surprised by the outcomes. Again, I talked a little bit about partner coordination. We did have the pleasure of meeting with your planners one-on-one in a workshop to make sure that what we were showing for growth throughout the city of Puyallup and beyond was also commensurate with the work that you're doing as part of your Puyallup 2044 a comprehensive plan update, and I think we're aligned. We certainly are basing all of our growth projections on really 4 pillars, and what those are a new employment, new housing, new populations that are projected, all within the year 2044. And again, these are the figures that the numbers that were certified by the Puget Sound Regional Council, as well as as Pierce County. And then the fourth thing is what's called transit propensity indices. It's hard to say. And what that is really the people that rely on transit the most, whether it's low income, veterans, disabled, people of color, really across the board, making sure that we're looking at those that utilize transit the most, or the most likely to utilize transit, that we are providing that essential service to those riders. And that's a big part. And again, these are kind of the 4 pillars as we create our network. We're talking about the network. I want to make sure that you can get an idea of what we showed your planners, and that was the routes that are shown here. And again, I won't go into too much detail because these are available on piercetransit.org/long-range plans. There actually is an online open house which is available, which was put together by Anna Peterson and another one of our planners using something called ARC Story Map. So they are explained, and there are different levels of growth. And again, we did show these to your planners as well when we met with them on August 22nd. With that, there's a service expansion scenarios, and again, we'll go into great detail on these if you go on our website, so I won't do that tonight. But we use 500,000 annual service hours as our baseline, and that's really where we will get to by the fall of 2026 as we finalize our fixed route recovery and restoration plan. So using the 500,000 as a baseline, this is very similar to the work we did both with our Destination 2040 long-range plan that was adopted in 2016, as well as its minor update in 2020. And we want to show not only the city of Puyallup, but the entire county, what our system could look like as we add service hours. So 25%, 50% more at 735, which is really a show up and go system. And what I mean by that is there's so much transit service that you really don't need a schedule anymore. Very early mornings, very late nights, greater frequencies at 15 minutes almost across the board, meaning how often the bus comes by, as well as an improved weekend service. And then the 900,000 annual service hour scenarios really are go big or go home, as I call it. It's a countywide vision, including possibly bringing back some of the cities that left us back in 2012. But as you know, they would have to vote themselves back into the taxing district, or the PTBA, as it's known, as Public Transportation Benefit Area. But we want to make sure that we are recognizing where the growth is throughout the county. And I think if you take a look at the scenario, to us it's very exciting, and I think there's a lot of opportunity. But again, with fixed route bus, you can do this incrementally. It doesn't have to be all or nothing at all. And you'll see that.
Let me ask you a question
Please.
on that, Darren, because you have the A, B, C, and then D being kind of the maximum. Clearly, the budget right now doesn't allow for that.
I'm glad you brought that up, Mayor, because our budget does not. We're pretty flat right now. So in order for any of these scenarios to be implemented, we are showing across the board what it would cost as far as new capital improvements, additional operators, additional transit vehicles. So there are cost assumptions that are illustrative, but they are.
Is that the next slide?
No, I don't have any costs, because those will be coming out as far as the plan goes. I wouldn't want to inundate you with any costs right now.
Okay.
Those will be available once the draft plan is released on Friday, December 20th.
Okay.
And that will be available for a 45-day public review and comment period. So
And I assume you're looking at greater taxing authority in one way or another, depending on...
Ideally, yes, that's where it would come from, ideally.
Okay, all right.
But we can't ask for it, but we could certainly kind of put it out there. This is what it would cost, and then hopefully we'll get a champion that would look for that for us. Is that a fair answer?
That's fine.
Okay. So with that, as you do take a look online, I would ask you to think about these. These are rhetorical questions, so certainly open for discussion, and I won't ask for answers tonight. But as you do look at the story map presentation online, I just want to make sure that you all feel that where we're showing growth and development, or where you all agree that the growth and development should go in transit service, and additional transit service, greater transit service. There's, I think, a lot of opportunities here, and certainly, again, we want to make sure that where the city feels the growth is where we're showing growth as well, to additional transit service to support it. Okay. The timeline and milestones is on the back of the handout we gave you, so this is kind of where we are in the process, so I won't go through this, but again, I mentioned that we will have a draft plan coming out on the 20th, and that'll be available for 45 days. We'll take comments, and then we'll have a second draft. Ideally, if everything goes as planned, we will be finalizing this with our Board of Commissioners at their April meeting. And with that, I can open it up for questions. I didn't talk about any additional routes in the interest of time, but they are available in the open house. Excuse me, the story map presentation.
Questions? Let me ask you about outreach. This evening, we have two prominent groups here, the Main Street Association and the Chamber of Commerce. I understand that you have open houses where people can go and kind of tell you needs, but do you have actually specific outreach to organizations like we have here this
We sure do.
evening?
As a matter of fact, I was just looking at the latest figure, and we conducted 27 such proactive outreach events, but if we were invited anywhere, it's not too late. We would absolutely speak to anybody and everybody. You've probably seen us at your farmer's market as well, but yes, if there are new opportunities, it's not too late.
Those groups would understand at least traffic patterns as they relate to businesses and as they relate to those that come to the downtown area, et cetera, and probably fairly knowledgeable about people commuting. I mean, you heard today that we have 1,100 employees working in our downtown area, more than I knew, actually. One thing that I did not see in your presentation is information about the runner. Did I miss that?
No, because it's more real time, it's more current. We are assuming runner in some of the areas in the future where fixed route doesn't make sense, but right now it's really a first mile, last mile service for us. It's a stopgap, so it's really curb to fixed route. So we think there's an opportunity for it, but we will be looking at best practices and maybe ways to bring costs down and make it more effective, but it's not something that we're planning for in the long term. We don't really need to, so we don't feel that it's something that we have to talk about what it would look like in 2045. To my mind, it probably look much like it does today.
Yeah.
And-
Just so the people in the audience understand, Runner is a service that we actually deployed in Puyallup before anybody. And that is a service where, I know you may not like this characterization, but kind of like an Uber in some respects, in that you go ahead and on an app on a phone, identify Pierce Transit, you go to the Runner service and say, I want to go from my house to a specific location, a doctor's location, and a van will show up in about 20 minutes, and they will take you there. Each fare is $2, is what it costs you, and it's all within the Puyallup area. So it's ideal for, people wanting to get to medical appointments who don't want to drive. My mother-in-law is almost 90. She doesn't drive anymore. It's ideal for her to use, and for really anybody else who wants to get around on a very customized level. But that's extremely popular in this area, so much that we're beyond capacity. So anyway, I just thought
No, it's good to hear.
I thought you might want to.
Well, we think there'll always be a place for that type of service now, and not only in the short term, but in the long term. It's really where fixed route doesn't work, but with these are the areas that we don't want to leave stranded.
Okay.
So,
Well, okay. Seeing no questions, I want to thank you, Darren.
it's my pleasure, our pleasure.
I would like, again, people in the audience, if they want to communicate your ideas of where you believe the needs are. And a lot of this deals with transit as you go up towards Graham and all of that area along Meridian, be along 94th or wherever, it would be all in that area. Your input would be valuable. So thank you.
You'll see new service on Canyon Road, certainly South Hill to Bonnie Lake, South Hill to Spanaway. So there's a lot of opportunity, we think, especially where the growth and development are coming.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you again.
My pleasure, our pleasure.
Yeah, by the way, you're not rude if you decide that you want to go ahead, if after the proclamation or a presentation, leave. That's fine. We're used to that. Having said that, we're now going to go to citizen comments, and I'd like to start with John Hopkins. And by the way, before I do that, John, I know you've heard this before, but I will have our clerk explain the guidelines for citizen comments. Dan?
This part of the meeting is for general citizen comments. Please reserve any public hearing testimony to that section of the agenda. The mayor will call on those who have provided their names in advance. Then the mayor will call for other citizens who wish to speak. For the record, please state your name and address or city council district in which you reside. Please direct your comments to the council as a whole, not individual council members. All comments are limited to 3 minutes. The clerk will provide verbal notice when only 30 seconds remain. As a reminder, this portion of the meeting is council's opportunity to hear from the community and not the time to engage in debate. Lastly, per state law, this public comment period cannot be used to speak in support of or in opposition to a ballot measure or individual candidacy, and no such comments will be allowed.
John Hopkins, District 1. I appreciate your support of small business and your support of downtown. I mean, it's pretty clear by your actions that that's what you want to do, and totally agree with it. One component is revitalization, restoration of buildings. And here's where I'm going to reiterate what I've said before, and I hope I'm not sounding too redundant on it. But for an investor point of view, it's rather difficult to remodel for multiple reasons that I've said before. Prices are pretty high, but then you also have code-required updates, and you do control some of that. Then, of course, you have the business of holding costs, and that can be a real killer. And I appreciate the efforts that you're making to try and reduce those, but it's still a struggle. Anyway, there are actually a few exceptions to that allow a few projects to go forward. You can buy super cheap, and there's been one or two of those around, like the old DSHS building with the parking garage. That was a steal. But there's very, very few of that kind of project. Then you could have a convenient fire, but I don't exactly recommend that as a business plan. You might get a little stay at Engels Grey Bar Motel, you know. The one that actually does work is that if it's a strong business, they can actually do the remodel and survive. Like McDonald's. You see McDonald's, well, they don't really care what the cost is and what the value is afterwards. And you see it with Larson, you know, with their new place. They can do it, but that's not really the same as a small business coming in and doing it. That's where the real struggle is. You know, small businesses really don't stand much chance, but I do appreciate the efforts that you're making in that direction. And then a couple of small things. We've had comments about the dog park. Well, I say just leave it to Parks and Recs. They know what they're doing. And I tell you, the dogs don't care. It's just fine with the dogs. And the other thing, I do agree with the comments that have been made by several people about the rocks in front of New Hope. I don't think it's a good look at all. You know, I'd suggest you just put them all back on the dump truck and take them to whose house had that brilliant idea in the first place. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's move on. Carrie, would you like to, you have 3 minutes again, or?
I do, and I'm already halfway done. I just wanted to add a couple of things there that I didn't mention, that in the downtown core, there happen to be 22 retailers with about 88 people employed in that. And then the other thing I wanted to mention is that if John's going to give a shout out to Engels Grey Bar Motel, I'd like to give a shout out for my Airbnb. That's it. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Paul Romage, please.
Thank you, Mayor Castema. Paul Romage, District 1. You know how by often I bring in Froyo very often, and so you know how much I support our local businesses. But I won't be partaking in Small Business Saturday because I'll be out in the country, unfortunately. But don't worry, I've got my list figured out already, and I started small. Carrie nailed it with why small businesses are excellent for the city to support, because they grow the wealth of the community. So it only makes sense to enable more of our downtown grid to participate. Our downtown storefronts are nearly full, and so when we open up more of our city to allow for small businesses, we get more small businesses. Similar to our storefront shortage is our housing situation. It's not fruitless, it's a supply problem. In 2021, Spokane declared a housing emergency. 2024, they're achieving success. How did they get there? By upzoning citywide, by removing parking mandates on housing nearly citywide, by updating building and fire codes to reflect the safety improvements made in building methods and materials over the last century. This isn't abnormal. From Minneapolis to Austin, cities that build more housing see housing costs go down across the board. It's high school level supply and demand. It's valid to lament that condos are a less likely option for development, but it's invalid to dismiss duplexes and beyond as renter only, because duplexes, triplexes, quadplexes can be condos. You're letting your idea of perfect, which is American dream style housing, be the enemy of good and affordable, productive city. In fact, single family housing is an incorrect term. It should be called single household parcels. A single family residential home houses one single family. A duplex houses two single families. A quadplex houses four single families. Renters appear transient because it's a self-fulfilling prophecy when city councils, typically made up of homeowners, think renting cannot be a beneficial lifestyle choice and suppress that lifestyle choice. Most people hate moving. It's time-consuming, expensive, stressful, and in some cases traumatic. So why do people do it? When their housing costs go up. Why are housing costs up? Because supply has not grown with demand. In 2016, the city estimated that 45% of Puyallup renters are cost-burdened, compared to 22% of homeowners. That's roughly 1/4 of the city. An age-friendly city would acknowledge that this burden disproportionately affects households with seniors and households with children. Additionally, Puyallup imports most of its workforce, almost 20-1. That's the traffic we deal with. Vehicle miles traveled, not population. is the main creator of traffic. This workforce works for mostly incomes that cannot afford to live here. If you want less traffic and you want a lower cost of living, you allow for more housing locally. 2 birds, 1 duplex. So let's start small with productive commercial nodes throughout the city. Let's start small with housing options citywide, because density is productivity. That's why downtown is successful. Thank you. Happy holidays. See you next year.
Thank you. Let's now have Charles Olmonton. I hope I have that correct. Was that last name correct? Pardon me? Almont. Okay.
Well, I'm here on the 22nd Avenue. And I really don't want, it seems like every time I turn around, he wants more and more. And I think it should be cut off. First he wanted setbacks. Now he wants pieces of 22nd Avenue. What is he going to want next? If you guys open this up to too many times, all contractors are going to want it. And I'd love to know how much money the taxpayers are getting for their property. And that's really all I need to say. So I hope you guys think about it, because you're opening a big worm.
Charles, do you mind, after you're through, could I have, Dan, do you mind meeting with Charles? I just want to clarify his request there. Could you do that, please? Okay, and Charles, I'll have someone talk with you about clarifying your request, okay?
Yeah, okay.
All right, thank you.
Because the last time I asked a drainage district for itemized statement every penny they spent, the secretary and treasurer resigned that night.
Okay. All right,
So,
Charles, thank you for being here. Appreciate that. Okay, now, I have gone through all the goldenrod forms for those that would like to speak. Would anyone else like to come forward? Seeing none, now we're going to move on to the next item on the agenda, and we're going to move to the consent agenda. And again, feel free at any time if you would like to, if the item that you came here for is off the agenda, please feel free to move. That's very common at these meetings. But on the consent agenda, these are items that are agreed to by council members, non-controversial. We make one vote for the items. And is there any item on the consent agenda, and we have 2 items, that any member would like to have removed?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to remove the 4B.
Okay, and where would you like that inserted?
Oh, your choice is as good as mine.
Okay, we will do that under considerations and requests. That will be we'll move 4B to 7E. Okay, and that'll be 4B. Okay, so with that, we have item 4A. Do I have a motion to approve that?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, let's move on to number 5, public hearings. And can we have our engineer, Hans Hunger, please come forward? And this is a first reading of an ordinance to vacate a portion of 22nd Avenue Northwest.
Hello, Hans Hunger, city engineer for the city of Puyallup. So we have public hearings. We have a request for vacating a portion of 22nd Avenue. This is out by the Freeman Road area, and the request is made as part of the vector development. 22nd Avenue is a road that we inherited as from Pierce County when it was unincorporated Pierce County, and just about 2 years ago this area was annexed into the city. So what we have here is a bump out of 22nd Avenue that was created for a school bus stop at one time. And I couldn't tell you how many years ago that was created there. And so what we're looking at is vacating a portion of that bump out. The reason why we're not vacating the whole thing is because as part of the vector development, they're proposing to widen out the road to meet the city road standards there. So the portion there that's being vacated really doesn't serve any purpose and will be incorporated into the development. As part of this vacation process, when a city has owned property or any municipality, including the county, has owned it, is required to get an appraisal on that property. The value was assessed at $38,500, just a little over that. So that's what will be paid to the city for the vacation of this portion of the property there. And with that, I can answer any questions that people might have.
Any questions? Okay. Protocol requires at this point that I go into a public hearing for this, and I will do that, and we will now accept citizen comments. So each speaker is allowed 2 minutes to comment on this street vacation. Does anyone wish to come forward? Yes, please. Just state your name.
Tyler Lissenberger with the Vector Development Company, and we're the applicant and the sponsor of the project. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. So as Mr. Hunger has just reiterated, we are dedicating about 40 feet of land for 22nd Avenue. We're going to be building the street frontage improvements on both sides of the street, which includes curb gutter, sidewalks, landscaping, and street lights. And then we're also we also know that we need to fund the city's vacation cost within 90 days. We're willing to do that and happy to do that too. So I just wanted to reintroduce myself, and if there's any other questions here this evening, I'm happy to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments? Okay, hearing none, we will close that. And I would entertain a motion to approve first reading.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, let's move on to number 6, ordinances. Second reading of an ordinance to amend Title 20 of the Puyallup Municipal Code. And Katie Baker, could you please give a very short summary and then take any questions we may have?
Absolutely. Thank you, Mayor. Katie Baker in the Planning Division. This is second reading for an amendment to Title 20 to address a gap in the code dealing with methadone clinics. So a number of years ago, the City Council gave policy direction and code amendments were made to allow new methadone clinics to be established in the medical zone of the city. We realized about a year ago that there was an oversight and that we should have expressly prohibited methadone clinics as a use in the mixed use zones, the MX zone chapter. So we're proposing a very simple one-line amendment to address that error. At first reading, a question came up as to where our medical zone is in the city. And so the map on the screen in front of you shows that in blue. So it includes Good Samaritan Hospital and really kind of all the properties they own north of 15th Avenue, between 15th and Highway 512. And then south of 15th, from just about a block off of Meridian down to 19th Avenue. And then to the east to 5th Street. So all of those properties, much of the parcels close to 15th Avenue have existing medical offices on them. Some of the parcels closer to 19th Avenue do include homes that, over time may redevelop into medical office. So that's all I have for you.
Thank you for that. Any questions? Seeing no questions, I'll just let members know that I did meet with the hospital and they think this is a very wise move on the part of the city of Puyallup. I'd like to entertain a motion to approve second reading.
So moved. Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. We'll go straight to a roll call on this since it is second reading. Clerk, can we start the roll call?
Councilmember Adler?
Aye.
Councilmember Whitting?
Aye.
Councilmember Gilliam?
Aye.
Deputy Mayor King?
Aye.
Mayor Kasterma?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, excellent. Let's move on to 6B. Thank you, Katie. Second reading of an ordinance determining and fixing the amount of funds to be raised by regular property taxes for 2025. Our finance director guru, Barbara Lopez, will introduce the ordinance.
Thank you, Mayor Castma. Good evening, Council. Barbara Lopez, Finance Director. This is the second reading on the property tax levy for 2025. That estimated levy is $11.2 million, and it does include the 1% allowable. It also includes $730,000 as previously approved by Council to go towards the public safety building. And I am available for any questions you might have.
Okay, any questions? Councilmember Whitting.
I just wanted to comment. I had some questions about the levy rates for Puyallup versus some of the surrounding cities and towns, and I wanted to thank Director Lopez for providing that information for me, and I think Puyallup stands in good shape with regard to those other cities, and appreciate the info. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So just for clarification, at this point, this is setting the income.
This is setting the levy amount, so that's the amount of money to be generated by the property tax, yes.
Correct. Okay. So again, this is a second reading. Do I have a motion to approve second reading of this ordinance?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. We'll go straight to a roll call. Dan, could we please do a roll call?
Councilmember Adler?
Aye.
Deputy Mayor King?
Aye.
Councilmember Gillum?
Aye.
Councilmember Whitting?
Aye.
Mayor Castma?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, now let's move on to 6C, second reading of an ordinance on preliminary 2025-2026 biennial budget. Now, just for clarification, this is where we actually spend the money, correct?
That is correct. This would adopt the budget for 2025 and 2026. Council's deliberated on that budget a fair amount already. We have budget study sessions in October. And so this is the second reading of that. There are still a couple of items that we would like to know if Council would choose to add those. One is the signal box art wraps. I did find out that the PSE box at the Kiwanis Splash Park has already been done. So instead of the $28,700 for that item, we could take out the $5,700 for that particular box, and so that amount would be $23,000 split over those 2 years. The proposed funding source for that is Tier 3 monies. The banner poles on Stewart and then a couple of other intersections for $104,400. The proposed funding source for that is lodging tax. And then the cross street lighting, the $650,000 that could come from lodging tax. So would want to know from Council which, if any of those, should be added into the final adopted budget.
May I suggest that we just take these one at a time? And I would entertain a motion for the approximately $23,000 for the wrapping of the various boxes that we have. And I would entertain a motion to do so.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Let's open that for discussion. If you don't mind me engaging in a little bit of a dialectic here, but Councilmember Adler, last time I thought that you may have made a request for enhancing this area. Did I just misinterpret that?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. When I was a member of the Arts and Culture Commission, this was something that I had inquired about, the city's ability to wrap boxes that are located in our parks, like the Kiwanis Kids Splash Pad. And so that's where this originated from. I will have a moment of personal privilege and just say that I'm grateful that Puget Sound Energy was able to work with staff here at the city and as stated, The PSE box in the splash pad has been wrapped, and it looks great.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So with that, is there any further discussion on this? Hearing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Okay, now let's move on to the $104,400 for that's for the light poles. Councilmember Dorr, I think, was the original requester of this. Do I have a motion and a second on that?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Any discussion? I will only say that I think this is actually a very worthy project in that it now starts including other retail areas across, in the Stewart area, who have oftentimes been left out of a lot of the infrastructure of lighting and baskets and things of that sort. This will now include them as I feel like make them feel more part of the downtown area. And I think Councilmember Dorr was a very good idea for her to do so. So hearing no further comments, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, opposed? Okay, now let's move on to the third item. And that was for $650,000 for lighting.
Correct.
Barbara, I need to kind of ferret something out with you. I am uncomfortable actually making a motion to do so because I would like our staff to look at specifics and then go out for bids at a couple different options that we've heard from the dais here. One would be the lighting in front of here, which has a lot of question marks how much it would actually cost. So before we give any kind of a set aside, I think that and correct me if I'm wrong here, I gleaned from everybody, we want to see some hard tack, items. How much it's going to cost before we do that. And can we actually save that for a later time? And we can put that forward as an amendment to the budget, next year sometime, if we so choose, correct?
Absolutely, that's correct. It's completely up to council how you'd like us to proceed with that one.
Okay. So having said that, if there is no one here who insists on putting a motion forward to actually integrate that into the budget at this point, I would just say we're going to pass on that. Correct me if I'm wrong, members. And let's go straight, in fact, to putting the budget forward on second reading. And I think that I may have actually, again, made a little bit of a procedural error. Let's go ahead and put forward, I would entertain a motion to put forward second reading of an ordinance for the preliminary budget. And so I entertain a motion by a member.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. And I'm going to fudge here and say those amendments apply. And unless I hear from my parliamentarian, we will assume that that's the case. And is there any comments now, the budget as amended by members? Okay, hearing no comments, all those actually, since it is second reading, let's go straight to roll call. Dan, can we do that, please?
Deputy Mayor King,
Aye.
Councilmember Gilliam,
Aye.
Councilmember Whitting,
Aye.
Councilmember Adler,
Aye.
Mayor Castro.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay. Barbara, stay there. 6B is first reading of an ordinance pertaining to the 2024 routine budget adjustments. And I think, just so the public knows, we are existing in a budget right now. And as we go through that, we have to make adjustments based on income and outflows. And these are kind of considered minor adjustments that we make in a budget, but it keeps us basically making sure that the input is matching the output. So with that, this is a first reading.
That is correct.
An ordinance pertaining to 2024 routine budget adjustments. Do you wish to say anything?
Just a couple of things on that one. This is our last budget adjustment for 2024. While the amount isn't a minor amount because it is $31.5 million, it is routine in that 25 3.7 million of that is actually carrying over unexpended capital project monies from last year into 2024 so that we could continue on with those projects that cross the years. And then there is also about 3.3 million that council has seen throughout the year on some various grants that were approved. So it's routine. It's not necessarily small, but it's definitely routine.
Okay, thank you. And just to remind the public, I have been to your office before, and I've seen we get awards when we are audited. We get awards the city of Puyallup does for our financial stewardship. Is that correct?
We have definitely gotten awards on prior accounting reports and on our budgets. So yes.
In the future, when we do receive those, I'd like to come forward with those and just acknowledge them. I think the public would like to see that, we are doing an excellent job with managing their funds. Councilmember Whitting.
I just wanted to ask, we see these budget adjustments come before us periodically. What's the frequency?
This year it was twice. There was one at mid-year and then this one at the end of the year. We're wanting to at least do that 3 times next year, if not quarterly. Get a little bit better cycle going on that.
I just wanted to have a little better understanding of that. Thank you.
Okay, with that, do I have a motion to approve first reading?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, let's move on to number 7. Thank you, Barbara. Consideration and requests. 7A is Public Safety Building, finalize key terms of the commercial lease. We'll have our city manager, Steve Kirkley, introduce the request.
Yes, good evening, Mayor Castema and Council. Steve Kirkley, your city manager. Here this evening to finalize the lease with the Public Safety Building. As you may recall, back in February, we came before you all at the retreat that you had and presented a potential option to lease a building for our police station. And through your leadership and direction, we pursued that further and then worked with Benaroya Company that owns a piece of property here in Puyallup just off 39th. And we're able to work with them to lease about a 48,000 usable square feet, 51,000 total commercial space for our police station. Came to you in August with some preliminary terms for that lease, 30 years, long-term lease. And then between August and now, we've been working with the landlord, Benaroya, to finalize the lease. And some of the key issues that we've worked on over the past few months are on the schedule, the construction schedule of the lease. And so basically the city, we will do the design. So we have McKinsey Architecture who will do the design work for us. We then will turn over the design documents to the landlord, and they will bid out the design, and they will construct the building or the tenant improvements for us. Within the lease, a very important provision, you've authorized $25.4 million for this. So there's a provision in the lease that caps it. It cannot go above that. So we are not asking for any additional funds at all. Another important component is that based on our estimates, this will save the city $30 million over the next 30 years and provide a office space and tactical rooms, a full-fledged police station, which the city has been working on for the last decade. So it solves a long-term issue at considerable savings to the taxpayers, to the city. So if council approves tonight, we will begin the design process. It's already started in earnest, but the design process should be done in spring 2025, so next year, early part of spring. We then would go to permitting and work through the permitting process. That should be done kind of in tandem with the design, and so we would hope about late spring or so to have that done. Then we would hand the design documents to the building owner, who then would bid that out. As you know, through some of our other projects, the bidding climate can vary, and ideally we like to bid summer, fall. You get better bids because they tend to be more hungry as they're looking into the fall. And so the bids would be sometime in the summer and fall. When those bids come back, we review them. They must be within our allocated budget that you have given us. If they're not, then we have to go back and reduce some components of the project until they do fit within that budget amount. And then it would go out and a contract would be selected. The lease has a provision that says construction must start by December 2026. We're hopeful it'll start before then, but that is when it must start, and it's about a 9-month construction process. Another good component of this project is, if you recall, if we had built the building, not only do we have the $30 million in cost savings, but also it would have been about a 2.5 to 3 year project. This is 18 months, so there's also some real efficiencies in this project. The landlord has executed the lease, and so I just need your authority to sign the lease. And once that occurs, we will move forward with it. And so tonight I am seeking a motion to authorize me to enter the lease. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Questions? I have a question regarding the package that we put together, and the package included the renovation of the jail downtown.
Yes.
And that would be our substation now. We'll renovate that building. Eventually, the fire station at the end will go away, and we can use that as a parking lot, for example, or in the long term, maybe another structure that will be there. Multi-family, commercial, depending on what the market will bear. Let's see. And you said the move-in construction or move-in is going to be when?
So at the latest, it would be summer 2026. I mean, as with any construction, you always have to account for things that you don't account for.
Right.
So we hope to be in there at the latest summer of 2026. Could be before.
Okay. Well, I think that our police have provided this community excellent service. And I think that we need to provide a facility that is commensurate with that. Their service level and their professionalism. And I think this has been a very long process, but we've come up with a creative solution that as you stated, will save the taxpayers $30 million over that length of time. Mm-hmm. And so I think it's a good combination of giving our professional police a professional facility, and then at the same time, again, being cognizant of the taxpayers in Puyallup. So anyway, I want to thank you for all your work and the staff's work on this. Councilmember Whitting.
I just wanted to say, it's been a long time getting to where we are today, and our police department has been working under substandard conditions for an extended period, and they've needed an upgrade, and they deserve an upgrade, and I commend my colleagues that we've been able to come to a solution here that is going to make a big difference for our employees, if you will, and for the service providers or for our first responders here in Puyallup. So I'm a big advocate of this action, and some in our community have expressed reservations about past proposals, and I think this one answers most of those concerns, hopefully all of them, and I'm hoping that this is something that our whole city can get behind and support, and if the timing is right, I'd like to move approval. Thank you.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, it passes. Okay, let's move on to the biennial update of the Puyallup, City of Puyallup Strategic Plan. And Tulika Makaharia will go ahead and present that.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor Castema, council members. Tulika Makaharia, Performance Management Analyst. As you're aware, since 2020, we have been working on developing and refining the city's organizational performance management system. The system has various elements, but the key is strategic planning. And we have been doing that both at the department level and overall city level. Our city plans are 2-year plans, biennial plans, and your current plan, 23-24, will expire at the end of this year. So what we have before you today is a proposed update, so your 25-26 plan for your review and approval. So before we go to the update, I'm very happy to report that your current plan has 41 initiatives, and as of last Friday, 100% of those initiatives are at varying stages of progress or they have been completed. Some of them because they're larger initiatives and because of their significance. If we are working on a new phase in the project, you will see that project in the new strategic plan as well. So in addition to the previous year's plan, the current plan, the updated plan depends very heavily on the community survey that we just completed. As you might recall, throughout the survey, we asked very specifically what are the 2 areas that within this service area that you would like for us to, for city leadership to focus on in the next 2 years. So we have been using that feedback, and both at the city strategic plan level and department level, we've been using it to find initiatives that we can work on to make those improvements. A quick recap of how our plans are structured. At the foundation, we always have the city's mission, vision, values, which were adopted by the council. Then we have 4 overarching goals. For each of those goals, we have key performance indicators, KPIs, and targets, so we can assess progress throughout the next 2 years. Again, within those goals, each of those, there are outcomes that focus on specific areas within the goal. And then finally, the initiatives which are inside the outcomes, those are those steps that we take in the next 2 years to move us closer to the outcomes and the strategic goals. So that is the city's vision, mission statements. And those are our 4 core values. In the center, you see our core values compass. And all the text there are the ways that we attempt to live those values every day in our interactions with our community, our customers, and with each other. So of those 4 overarching goals, the first is vibrant economy. As you can see, we have identified 7 performance metrics for that goal, and 4 outcomes. The text that you see in the darker colored boxes, those are the outcomes, and what you see underneath that are those initiatives, the actual projects that we will be working on. So this plan has 40 initiatives in all. I don't plan on reading those to you. What I will do is very quickly mention what areas those 4 outcomes focus on. So within vibrant economy, that is development and permitting services, developing infrastructure that will attract economic development, the support of existing businesses, and developing Puyallup more as a destination city. The second goal, safe community. And again, we have 4 outcomes, and 2 of those outcomes deal with improving public safety. The first one is through operational administrative efficiencies. The third one is through best practice policing strategies. The second outcome is about increasing our community's resilience through emergency preparedness. And the fourth one is for maintaining a reliable infrastructure for our community's safety and health. Healthy and livable community, again, that has several performance indicators that we have identified. And this one has 5 outcomes, and those focus on quality housing in our community, transportation networks, stewardship of the community's natural resources, recreation and active living in the community, and quality of life concerns. And the last goal, organizational excellence, again, it has 8 performance indicators. And the areas that we will be working on relate to the city's fiscal sustainability, its workforce, community connections, information sharing, maintenance of the city's workspaces, technology systems, and continuing to build a high-performance organization. And finally, as you know, the most important part of any plan is its implementation. So one of our goals in that last goal, one of our initiatives, is to develop a more robust tracking system than we have in the past, which is why we have more performance indicators adopted this year, and our plan is to collect that data as it is available. Some might be monthly, there might be some that is only annually, and periodically report those to you at council meetings, and also use some of the tools that we have to report to the community. So that is all that I have today.
Thank you. And just a note to members that, and I appreciate you getting to the dashboard as the next step. If you can imagine when you're driving a car, they call it a dashboard for a reason, and that, you know, a mechanic will get under the hood, and the mechanic will go ahead and may tell you that the carburetor or whatever the case may be, this particular mechanical mechanism is not functioning correctly, and they can get very detailed about the belts and things of that. The people driving the car, they want to look at the big indicators, and they want to make sure that, that the check engine light isn't on, that they want to see what the RPM is going at, what the speed is, and that's what a dashboard is. Right. It's for really leadership in the community to look and quickly see where they need to put their attention. And if there is something on that dashboard that indicates that it's not up to the standard performance level, then you start digging down deep. But it's a way that you cannot, kind of get lost in all the minutia of everything, but see very clearly how an organization is performing. One question I have for you is, of all the departments that we have, how many of them at this point are actually engaged in their own strategic plan that is aligned with the overarching strategic plan that we've set forward?
I'd say all of them except 3.
Okay. And I assume that they're on schedule, that eventually everyone
Correct.
will be.
There are a couple that will be coming to you in the next couple of months with updated plans as well.
Okay, good. Just to apprise members here in the audience, Councilmember, well, she was mayor at the time, Mayor Dorr was really kind of the one that started, that we all coalesced around this process, and then Mayor Dean Johnson carried that on, and I am, carrying that on. These are really best practices, and I have to tell you, I think cities would envy the strategic planning process that we go through, and the fact that we have these elements. And again, I invite everyone here to provide input, but every well-run organization needs a vision. They need a mission. They need values. They need goals. They need KPIs, and they need strategic initiatives. And I want to thank you for, bringing this best practices to Puyallup and being the person that really kind of rides herd over all this. So thank you, Talika.
Thank you for your support.
Okay. Any questions that we have? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve the strategic plan?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. No one's against it. So again, Talika, thank you very much for your professionalism. And I want to, I think it's also noteworthy to say we have a person at the City of Puyallup who really makes sure that all of our departments are centered around clear goals and objectives, and that we get that accurately measured. We go out and we actually pay a company to survey our constituents to see what the satisfaction level is. And these aren't puff surveys. We're trying to get to the real core of what people think in Puyallup. And I want to thank you for helping in that process. Talika?
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
You're welcome. Okay, now let's move on to the city's legislative policy agenda. Steve Kirkley.
Yes. Okay, yes, good evening again, Mayor Steve Kirkley. And just back again on our legislative capital budget request. I was before you in October and gave a brief summary of it, and now I'm back to request guidance on our capital budget request. I do want to make note that Luke Esser and Jim Hedrick, our state consultants, are here this evening, so if there are any questions you have for them, they are available. They will be the boots on the ground down in Olympia this coming session for the city. So just as a quick background, typically what we do, staff brings you requests. These are capital budget requests that we make to our delegation, the 25th legislative delegation. We are currently working with the delegation to set up a meeting, likely in January, where we would then go over these requests. And so what we're seeking tonight from council is a priority of these projects. There's 3 there before you. Typically what councils have done in the past, if you've just kind of gone member by member, however you would like to do it, and just kind of rank the projects, 1, 2, 3, or just say this is the only one we want. That's entirely within your discretion. And then we will use those during the session to work with our delegation to have them submitted as part of the capital budget process. So the first one is the Meeker Street project, which I think all of you are very familiar with. This is a project that is critically important to our downtown as we are looking to revitalize the downtown, activate the downtown, and connect our Meeker Festival, or Meeker Street, to the Meeker Mansion. It also will be a critical component of the redevelopment efforts that you're going to be hearing about here in a couple weeks at the Cornforth Campbell lot. And so for this project has received grant funding from Puget Sound Regional Council and other funding sources. We're about $850,000 short of having it fully funded. And so the first potential project is this. We're asking for $850,000. That would get the project to be completely funded, and we'd be able to begin construction in 2027. So that's the first one. Second one is another one that your council is familiar with. Again, the focus is on downtown redevelopment, although it does provide benefits to portions of the northwest end of our town. And so this is upgrading the stormwater capacity from the river into downtown. Right now, our stormwater system can only handle a certain amount of capacity. As developments come in downtown, where we've heard council say this is where we want density, you need more stormwater capacity to do that, so that you don't have to use land to detain the water. Instead, you can just discharge it directly into the river and use your land more efficiently and economically. And that's what this project would do. So the request is for $750,000, which will get expand the capacity from 7th Avenue Northwest to just almost up to the railroad tracks. So continue to get us closer to finishing in the downtown. And the third one, this is a new one. At the last meeting, council said, is there a third one? This is the future neighborhood park in very preliminary stages, but the city acquired this property through Pierce County Conservation Future Fund. So the city didn't pay any money for this. This was purchased to conserve land there. We call it LaBelle, that's the former owner, but a lot of this is wetlands. And so we purchased this through Conservation Future Funds, and the goal here is to create a neighborhood park in the kind of the foothills there of the southeast and the northeast sections of our community. That's an area that's been identified by our Park Recreation Open Space Plan for quite a while that needs a neighborhood park. And so what this request is for frontage improvements and sidewalk access along 12th and 13th. This is, if we did get this funding, this also would be seed money for us as we are competing for grants at the state through the Recreation Conservation, what's the C, Recreation, Conservation, Open Space, I think, RCO grant, it's state grants. So this would be the third request. So those are the three requests, and would turn it over to you, Mayor Castema, for any direction the council would like to give us.
Councilmember Adler.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Steve. I recognize that when this was last before the council, and to your point, Steve, the direction of council was to add a third item onto the capital requests. I think that it might be wise for council to consider going all in on one. Certainly we are all very familiar that the state is going to be heading into a very tough budget cycle in 2025 to the tune of, $11 billion with a B dollar deficit. And, while we are very conservative in our asks here, I mean, these dollar amounts are, compared to other capital requests that come in, are very small, in my opinion, again, compared to others. It makes most sense to me for us to focus on one. And if I had a magic wand, I would say that it would be wise perhaps to consider going all in on the Meeker Street project because, as you said, Steve, and correct me if I'm wrong, this $850,000 would get us over the finish line. The project would be fully funded. Is that correct?
Correct.
Recognizing the importance of this project, how close we are, I mean, under $1 million, certainly I think the support that the project has received from the council, to me, this seems like a pretty clear front runner and priority. I do believe that our resources would probably be best spent in a tough budget year, all in on one project. But that's just my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Adler. Councilmember Whitting.
I just had some questions about this storm sewer project. Clearly that we've got some years ahead of us. If we do not include that in this as one of our budget asks, what would be the anticipated completion date of the complete project here?
I don't know. Do Hans or Ken have an idea? Hans, you can just yell it out if you do, since you're
right now. We're looking at just getting to 4th Avenue, so that would get under the tracks and all the way to 4th Avenue. As we mentioned in the study session, we're about $6 million towards that. So we have to build up enough in our storm fund, but we're also applying for other grants, so we're looking at other grants to do that.
So my question then is this is an ongoing thing, and is delay on this project something that we should be concerned about? Is there the opportunity for failure of this infrastructure at some point, or is it just this part of our necessary ongoing maintenance?
Yeah, I don't think it's a failure issue. I think it's a capacity issue. And as we continue to grow in the downtown, we will need capacity, but it's not a failure issue.
Okay. So with that said, I would second Councilmember Adler's comments. I about the Meeker Street project. The ability to complete the funding and get that constructed is really important for the city. So I second that. I'm not entirely clear whether I'm not sure I'd want to go with a single project, but she has a lot of visibility on the state level that I do not have. So I guess I'll defer to her judgment there and say let's go all in on one. And that being the Meeker Street. Thank you.
Before we go to the next question, I want to clarify something, and this is be for Luke or Jim. As I see it, Meeker is going to be somewhat discretionary, whereas Stormwater and LaBelle Park, are there not particular silos that are dedicated to, obviously there would be one for stormwater. I would think that there is a specific category funding there. And the same would be, is there one for parks? I can't remember at this point on capital.
Yes.
So, and I only bring that up to my colleagues because there are certain silos in Olympia that only certain kind of projects can compete within that avenue for funding. And you want to be in those silos and you want to be competing. And then more on the discretionary end, that's where you get requests by senators and representatives that would be, again, kind of not in a specific competitive silo. So, Luke, please.
Excellent question, Mr. Mayor. A lot of the silo projects end up being competitive type of projects where there's been processes going along where our city staff may have been applying for these particular grants through the Recreation and Conservation Office and getting ranked for projects. At this point in the process, what we're really fighting over are the projects where we can go to the local delegation and ask for their support for spending money from their local and community projects, which has a lot more ability for local legislators to designate projects of what the greatest value to the community, regardless of the silo that it might be from. So it's less of an issue at this point in the process, given the nature of these particular projects.
Thank you. How about the strategy of identifying single as opposed to ranking? Would that at all diminish those additional items?
What I prefer to do is kind of give pros and cons and defer to you on the ultimate decision. And I think one of the strongest arguments in favor of Meeker Street, it is that legislators like to see you are asking for the final dollars for a project. So it's not, we're not asking to build half of a bridge, to use a comical example. We're completing the Meeker Street project. With some of the others, you can address that issue in the same way, sort of, if you have phases of a project. You can argue that this is the final dollar of a particular phase, but if we can't argue that something is a final dollar, it's not as strong of an argument for funding as it would be for the Meeker Street project. Usually we ask for more than one. This is a tough budget year. I don't think it would be a fatal flaw to ask for more than one, but if you did ask for more than one, I think it would be critical to make clear what your number one priority was. So that's the way I would frame it. If Meeker Street really is your number one priority, communicate that very strongly if you do decide you'd like to put forward two projects.
Okay. Councilmember Gilliam, and you could stay there, Luke, if you'd like.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The questions that were just asked were my questions, so I was waiting for the response just in case I needed to say something else, but all that makes a lot of sense to me. And I'm also in favor of the Meeker Street project. So thank you.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor King.
Sorry.
Okay. All right. I think as long as we make a clear priority, I feel a little pensive about just identifying one. Because capital budgets are a percentage of the operating budget. That's how you determine what your capital budget is going to be. And I know we're going to have shortage, but if they make up a portion of that, the capital budget is going to be a percentage of that. And so it is. And I really support the kind of the emphasis of Councilmember Adler of getting what we need, this last mile of this project. On the other hand, if there's more on the table than $850,000, I want to get it.
We actually, my partner Jim Hedrick, like being ambitious in our asks. That's our goal, is to provide as much value as we can to the city, while at the same time recognizing when there is a project that is a clear number one with a bullet priority, being very clear to make sure the local delegation knows that as well, so there's no confusion. We did have one instance a few years ago where there was $1 million provided in a initial house capital budget for the city's number two priority, and so we had to go hand in hand and ask them to please redirect that funds, which they did. So there is always the possibility of that sort of thing happening. But I think we've done a better job of being really clear, abundantly clear about what the priorities of the city are.
Well, my vote is to kind of split the baby. I go with 1 and 2, 1 being the Meeker Street and 2 being stormwater. That's my vote. Councilmember Adler.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Whatever is the pleasure of the council is the pleasure of mine, but I would like to say that I do hope that in the year ahead, recognizing the difficulty that the legislature is going to find itself in, particularly in the budget discussions, I do hope that the council can be more engaged in Olympia, and perhaps our mayor, with his great experience, can walk the halls and meet with our delegation, who, by the way, have been so terrific to us here at the City of Puyallup and has always delivered. And I'm sure that they will enjoy seeing us and are looking forward to hearing our pitches as they were. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Adler. Challenge accepted. Thank you for that. Okay. But I don't think we've given you the answer you want or you need yet, or have we?
Well, I guess I would say that I think Meeker is the clear number 1, and if the delegation was able to secure additional funds, it sounds like stormwater would be the number 2. Is that kind of the consensus that I heard?
I make a motion to approve option 1 and 2.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, let's move on to, there are other requests that we can make. These are just the capital budget requests, correct?
Correct.
The thing that I would say as mayor that I'm very concerned about is that the amount of discretion the state legislature is taking away from local governments, especially when it comes to land use issues. I think everyone's heard my diatribe on this before, but I was there, and so were you, Luke, post GMA battles. They call them the GMA wars, growth management wars, and the reason for that is that you had very much at the time kind of an equal balance between rural and urban areas in Washington State, and suburban areas and highly densely urban areas, and what you wanted was a balance in how we went about our growth. And the idea was the state would go ahead and tell you the number, but leave it up to the local jurisdiction to determine how to do that. And that became a national model. If you look at that happened back in the early 90s, and the people who were very noteworthy, Maria Cantwell, they were all involved in those battles. And I got battle story after battle story when I was down there, because that was a big thing. But that's what they had arrived at, leaving that discretion up to the local jurisdiction and coming to an agreement on the amount of growth that you would have. And we have seen it in education policy. We've seen it in, other usurpation of local jurisdiction. There's got to be somebody down there putting the brakes on, again, removing local discretion from making these very key decisions. And so I would make the request, and I don't know if AWC has done so yet. They have a very long legislative agenda, but I have heard that, in fact, there is talk in Olympia of removing even more local jurisdiction away from land use issues, growth, and who knows what else. And could you apprise us on that? Is that true? Because it's been 134 years of where the local jurisdictions have really most to say about those type of issues that impact the people in our community. And with this discretion just being taken away, I find that really that's an inappropriate use of power on the state level. But anyway, address that if you can.
There definitely will be more proposals. There's certainly a segment of the legislature that believes that many cities have not done enough to provide enough housing moving forward, and so one that's received a lot of attention lately is there has been in the past, and will certainly be again, proposals to limit the amount of parking that cities can require housing developments to require. And so that one is definitely going to be before the legislature again. Somewhere between outright prohibiting cities from requiring any parking to limiting how much parking they can require for new housing developments. So I guarantee you that one will be before the state legislature.
Well, that seems to be logical in that nobody drives cars anymore, right? And that would make sense if you were in that world, but that's just not reality. And I will certainly take Councilmember Adler up on her challenge to maybe walk the hallways down there. We'll see about the impact of that. I'm not going to promise anything, but nevertheless, the assumption that they're making is just wildly incorrect. Okay, with that, are there any questions? I think we have settled that issue, correct? Let's move on to 7D, and that's the 2025 City Council meeting calendar.
Motion to approve.
Okay, no, that's fine. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Whoa, point.
Well, the motion has been made.
I have a point of
Councilmember
privilege.
Whitting, go ahead.
I would like to offer an amendment.
Oh, let's hear it.
Thing.
When are you going to Hawaii?
I am here tonight under duress. I've got 12 people in my household tonight, and I like, as families come in from out of town, so meeting on the week of Thanksgiving seems to take me away from my family more than I would like. And there is a date on December 2nd that would be a possible alternative. Now, I've talked to City Manager Kirkley, and he reminded me that we need to approve our budget in a timely fashion in order to meet state guidelines. But I think that's something that we could make happen even without that November 25th meeting. So I would like to propose that I would like to offer an amendment to move the November 25th meeting to the December 2nd.
Okay, is there a second?
Nobody else has a family?
Well, actually, I think that's a fairly appropriate. I will second that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate that.
You're very welcome. I say that because I think you might be right. If people are traveling, it would give them the opportunity to do that, right before Thanksgiving. Keep in mind on your budget, and we have our budget director here, is that we approve a two-year budget, okay? And in the off years, we're approving a supplemental budget. And just the level of gravity at that point is not at the same level as what we just dealt with. Correct, Barbara?
So it's not so much about adopting the budget, it's about the property tax levy. We have a deadline to get that to the Pierce County Assessor Treasurer by November 30th.
And that's on an annual basis.
And that's on an annual basis.
Yeah.
And so we can work it, we can make either date work.
Okay, that's fine. Okay. With that, is there any discussion on the motion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Okay. Councilor Whitting, it passes.
Just wanted clarification. We're voting on an amendment.
Yes, that was the amendment. I apologize. And there was a motion that Councilmember Deputy Mayor King made that we just adopt the calendar. There was an amendment made by Councilmember Whitting that we modify the Thanksgiving date next year to December the 2nd, and I seconded that. So I assume that's what we voted on. Am I correct? Councilmember
Sounds
Whitting?
like it to me.
I will say aye.
I'll use that discretion to say that that's what we voted on. So now we will move to the final vote, unless I hear any disagreement. With that, let's move to the final vote. Is there any discussion on the calendar as amended? Hearing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. Let's move on to 7E. which was formerly 4B. And could I have the city manager come forward, explain this? This is 4B is the contract with Catholic Community Services for the hotel pilot project, and this is merely a approval of the contract, and we had already approved it on a council basis, and this is just the contract. Can you clarify that for us?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I don't really need any clarification, and I just had some comments I wanted to make about this.
Well, feel free.
So I will. Don't think we need.
Before you do that, let's put a motion to approve, and then we can make comments. Is that okay?
That'd be great.
Okay, do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second. Okay. And now it's open for discussion. Councilmember Whitting.
Okay, so this we're approving $327,000 for 6 months of the hotel pilot project, and this has been going on since COVID, and it got started as a reaction to COVID, and there was a real serious need for to help those in our community that didn't have housing and were potentially exposed to COVID under the circumstances in which they were living. But we've renewed it multiple times now, and from a variety of different funding sources. And this is a little bit of a scaled down version. We've gone from 20 units of housing down to 15. So this $327,000 is for 6 months, so that represents about $650,000 annually. For 15 units, that's about $43,000 per unit, or about $3,600 a month. I do not think that this aligns with our city commitment to operating excellence. I think that's way too much. So that's my first observation. My second observation is this money's already been approved. It's been approved by other levels of government. It does not come out of our general fund, so it's not really our money. But I don't like to be responsible for what I consider wasteful spending. I believe that there's alternative solutions to this that would be much more cost effective. But given that the money's been approved, then I'm not going to stand in the way of this. I will vote to approve. But I want to make a couple of other observations. One, budgets are getting tighter. We've heard that several times this evening, and this only funds us through June, and the question becomes, what are we going to do come June if we don't get any further funding from our county, state people, and there's no guarantee that we will. Are we willing to carry this cost on out of our general fund? And our general fund is pretty tight as it is, so I would expect the answer to that question to be in the negative. So I just want us to think about that, and I just wanted to go personally on the record that I don't like it. I don't like spending this much money in this way, but it's not my money being spent. So at some level, that's a cop out on my part, but in voting for it. But so be it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any additional comments? Councilmember Gilliam.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I hear my colleagues' concerns, and I do validate those concerns. And I'm in full support of funding this because we need to meet the needs of these people in our community. And until there's a better solution, I think we need to work collaboratively to try to figure something out. But we still need to try to find a way to meet these needs. So I am in full support of this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Gilliam. Any further comments? Hearing none. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, opposed, nay. Okay, now let's move on to the city manager's report.
I'll just stay here.
Yes, go ahead, Steve.
It will be brief. Mr. Mayor and Council, and to the community, there are boards and commissions that volunteers serve on, and so we have several openings right now on different boards and commissions. So if you go to the city's website and you look, they are open through the end of December, so just encouraging our community to apply for those positions. Next, you do not have a meeting next week. You're off next week, and the final meeting of the year is December 10th. On that agenda, there will be a presentation on our tourism branding, Puyallup Always in Season campaign, our efforts, marketing efforts, and then a very exciting presentation on downtown redevelopment and the city's efforts on Cornforth Campbell, which is a project that the city has been working on. And we will be coming to you and presenting on a proposal that we'd like you to consider for future development of that city-owned property. Other than that, happy Thanksgiving.
Okay, thank you. That's very kind. Let's move on to Councilmember Adler.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for the time. I would like to send a Thanksgiving greeting, and I'm going to look at my notes. This is something that I adopted to our community several years ago upon coming across a similar, which is likely an original version that is my understanding was published originally in the 1950s in McCall magazine. But I, as I have said, adapted it over several years and generally share it as a Thanksgiving greeting in my personal life. And it goes like this. More than ever, I'm thankful and grateful that I'm from and live in Puyallup, which happens to be the land of generous people. I'm thankful that everywhere I go, I see someone I know, and we are able to chat about our friends, our families, our jobs, our pets, our homes, the Seahawks, sometimes politics, occasionally pop culture, if you're talking to me, ways to give back to the community, our memories together, the city we call home, and then realize that it all means something to each of us. After all, divisiveness only happens if you allow it to. My life is better because of the community that I and 2 other generations of my family, for a total of 3 generations, were born into, grew up in, and continue to be. For that, I am sincerely and utterly grateful. It is an honor and a privilege of a lifetime to serve on this council and represent the residents of Puyallup's District 1. We're coming close to finishing my first year on the council, and I am very, very, very grateful for the trust that this city and its residents put in to me in this seat. And I'm grateful to be doing this and doing hard things alongside all of you. And especially grateful to the staff who, do such a fantastic job on behalf of the city council and on behalf of everyone. I once worked for someone who, when they retired from Congress, said, elected officials are nothing but the ornament on the hood of the car. So thank you very much, City of Puyallup staff. You do very great work. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Adler. Councilmember Gilliam.
Thank you, Mayor Castema. I just wanted to also say Happy Thanksgiving to the Puyallup citizens and you and your loved ones. I also recognize that the holiday season can be very rough for some individuals who maybe feel alone, who don't have family around or not able to get around to their family. So I just wanted to challenge citizens to reach out and love somebody that's outside of your family and pull people in. I also wanted to just do one more shout out for shopping local. If it wasn't for our local businesses, Puyallup would not be what it is today. So we absolutely need to keep shopping local. Thank you, Mayor Castro.
Thank you. Councilmember Whitting.
Man, my colleagues have stolen my thunder. I want to second the thoughts of both my preceding council colleagues. I want to thank my colleagues, particularly for the year we've spent together. We've managed to keep moving forward without much. I think where acrimony and partisanship has been largely, if not completely, absent. We have differences of opinion, but they're always honest and heartfelt, and that's what we're here for. We're all elected to represent the opinions of our constituents, and we do the best that we can, each one of us, and I think we've done that in great harmony and partnership. So I thank my colleagues first. I thank city staff, the work that they do. We wouldn't get it done. We are the hood ornament, if you will. And I also want to second Councilmember Gilliam about those that are less fortunate. I spoke out about the way we're spending our funds, and that's not that I don't think those folks need our help. I just think that the help that we provide them ought to go a lot further than it does, and we need to find a way to sustain that help and make it help that uplifts and encourages self-reliance and not just dependence. So those are my thoughts, and I wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. Thank you.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor King.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Looking forward to hearing about the Cornforth Campbell project that is going to be talked about at our next council meeting, and what kind of growth we will be seeing in our city potentially from this project. And so that's an exciting time for our city. As we approach Thanksgiving this Thursday, following Thanksgiving, obviously we have a big economic boom to our businesses here in our city, large and small. So when you're out there on Friday shopping for those that you wish to purchase for and those that are in need in our community, please be safe out there. Make sure you take care of those gifts that are in your cars, and if they can't see it, they can't steal it. So make sure you hide them appropriately. And I will just leave it at that regarding this weekend, but continue to shop small for our small businesses here in our downtown core. And happy Thanksgiving, Merry Christmas, and Happy New Year. And this will be my last council meeting of the year, so in person. But I am sad that I have to miss the next one, but I'm sure you guys will do a fine job without me. And I wish you all the best, because I won't be here.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. We are shedding tears. I wish you the best. And the meeting on the 10th, it's going to be a big meeting. It's going to be a little festive. We're into the Christmas season and all, but we're going to make some announcements. And I think everybody who is watching this, you've got to tune in on the 10th, because we're going to make some big announcements of what's going to happen in downtown. I wasn't kidding earlier when I said that this council is really dedicated to making our downtown area just vibrant and making it the commons, the core of this city, a place you want to come to for that great, awesome retail environment, but also we're going to enhance the living environment in downtown Puyallup. It will become more festive on a year-round basis. And you will see that on the 10th, and you will see actual presentations we're going to have at that time. And I guarantee you're going to be excited about it. So you got to mark that on your calendar. We passed the budget. We did kind of the heavy lifting tonight. Now that was predicated on, there was a lot of work that went into that before we made these final votes, but they were the final votes tonight. And I tell my colleagues all the time, and the public needs to know this, most important decision we make is the budget. That is the most important decision. That defines our priorities. That defines your tax rate. All of these types of things are by that vote. Well, we did the heavy lifting. On the 10th, there'll be a little bit of celebration, but we're going to release what we're going to do in our downtown area. And a lot of it's been in the making for quite some time. I think the public will be very satisfied with that. I do want to call out specifically Councilmember Dorr, Councilmember Johnson. They both could not be here this evening. They wanted to, but they have family priorities that are taking place right now. And so we wish them the best. And at this time of the year, I'm glad we accepted Councilmember Whitting, sorry about that, Councilmember Whitting's amendment on changing the meeting next year for Thanksgiving, because it is a tough time for families during this time to make this meeting. I don't want people to make that choice in the future, and I appreciate that member. Councilmember Whitting, you've already spoken. You can't respond to me. Sorry about that.
I just wanted to say that you don't need to apologize to me for promoting me. You should be apologizing to Deputy Mayor King.
Well, I will say that I have a rare opportunity. I'm the mayor, but the way that our mayor system works in city of Puyallup, it was set before us, a couple decades before us, but I'm a senior member and I'm a mayor for 2 years. And then it goes on to the next senior member, and that's going to be Councilmember Whitting. And then after that, we're going to see Councilmember or Deputy Mayor King. Well, he's got to get reelected first. Sorry, I don't want to mix all of that together. But you kind of get the idea. I'm really serving with future mayors. What an honor that is. Councilmember Adler talks about her lineage here and how, her family goes back generations, and I know that other members have the same experience. I am complimented by that, but I'm also by the fact that I'm serving amongst future mayors of the city of Puyallup, and I'm very honored to be in a system that does that. So one last item, and then I'll sign off until December the 10th, and that is on December the 7th, we have our Santa Parade. And that is a big thing. I know I said it last time, but I don't have to tell you to show up, because people show up. We have like 120, 130 entrants, people who enter into the parade. It is really a festive time. And because I sang in the Puyallup High School Choir, I just have to say Puyallup High School Choir will be featured this year at the final ceremony that we have on the tree lighting, and they're going to sing some songs. And you don't want to hear me sing, but at one time I wasn't that bad. So with that, folks, thank you for all the hard lifting you did, heavy lifting you did this evening. With that, I'll see you on the 10th.